every time I looked in the mirror, I wasn't happy with who I saw. Like, seriously, the best thing about me was that I knew where the party was. And I remember having leaders in my life come to me and say, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not gonna amount to much. And so I'm having this identity crisis, and that's another weight on my shoulders, right? And on top of both of those things, I'm having this mental crisis that for most of my life, up until this point, I've got these voices in my head that are saying, you're not good enough, you're never gonna be good enough, you'll never change. But on top of all this other pressure that I had accumulated, the voices were getting louder and louder, and it almost felt like it was hard to breathe. And so I found myself in the back row of a church in my hometown, and the worship team sang something, and the pastor preached a message about something, and I didn't hear anything. I just wept in the back row of that church, so scared that girl was all that I would ever be. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. But in the back row of that small church, God's presence met me. And I'm serious. It felt like God wrapped his arms around me, told me, everything's gonna be okay. This isn't who you are. Just stay close to me. And it reminds me of like when you had a really hard day at school, or you bombed a test, or a teacher called you out in front of everybody, and you run home to your parents, and you just kind of fall apart in their arms. And for like 1 second, you feel like everything's gonna be okay. See, God demonstrated that he is a good and loving father right there in that moment for me.